What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your fourth stimulus check update and daily news report. Trouble in paradise as Nancy Pelosi is having trouble with her own people, as well as the IRS is telling some people to send their $1,400 stimulus check back. That's right. The IRS is telling people to send their stimulus checks back to certain groups of people. We're going to go over all the details of that, as well as President Biden's meeting today regarding the fourth stimulus check and fourth stimulus check package. Lots to cover. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates on the upcoming round of stimulus, as there's multiple provisions on the horizon for the new round of stimulus that will likely be included in the infrastructure package before all is said and done. I also think we could see student loan forgiveness, the big one, as the President Biden has already passed 3 mini rounds of student loan forgiveness. The first round for $1 billion, the second round for $1.3 billion, and the third round for 1 million plus people. But really, that's still kind of 3 small rounds combined, only for certain eligibilities and stuff. We're expecting to see President Biden possibly here within the next few days come out and say he is willing to do somewhere between $10,000 and $50,000 of student loan forgiveness, and it's likely he will do that through a presidential executive order. They have set up a special inquiry through the Department of Education, which is appointed by President Biden, his cabinet, and they are looking into right now whether or not they can 100% sure do presidential executive order to simply cancel $10,000 or more of student loan debt forgiveness. I also personally think that once this happens, because it is almost a certainty that this will happen at some point. Of course, nothing is ever certain until it happens. But I think we have about a 90% chance that the president will be forgiving at least $10,000 of student loan forgiveness at some point here in the near future. So I'll keep you up to date on that. But I also think that once that happens, once that's done, again, more than just the 3 mini rounds that have already been done on student loan forgiveness, I think that it's going to open the door to a lot of push for other types of debt forgiveness, mortgage debt forgiveness, possibly $10,000 of that, as the government already owns the majority of the mortgage debt through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Also, we could see medical debt forgiveness or credit card debt forgiveness, and the government can simply do that through a stimulus package or include that in one of the stimulus packages to just pay off of the debtors, the credit card companies and the medical companies, as the student loan debt forgiveness kind of opens the door to other types of debt forgiveness here in the near future. I'll keep you up to date on everything. Also, don't forget to hit the like button for us. It really helps out our channel and shows YouTube that you think I'm doing a good job and you like my videos, my content. Thanks, guys. You're the best. And let's jump into Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi has some advice for her fellow Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives. As you know, Nancy Pelosi is the leader of the Democrats in the House and the Speaker of the House. She has advice for the squad, the Democratic squad they're called, that you're not a one-person show. As you can see here, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, in a soon-to-be-released biography, offered advice to the squad, telling the progressive group of female lawmakers in the House, you're not a one-person show. Axios reports that Pelosi gave the blunt piece of advice to the group, which consists of Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Alana Presley, and Rashida Tlaib. A lot of these members are the people that are strongly pushing for the fourth stimulus check to be more than just a fourth stimulus check, but actually monthly recurring stimulus checks. In fact, one of the 2 main proposals for a stimulus check is from Michigan Representative Rashida Tlaib and also from Representative Jayapal. Ilhan Omar has also been an outspoken advocate for more rounds of stimulus check. Rashida Tlaib's bill is for a $2,000 fourth stimulus check, then followed by $1,000 monthly recurring stimulus checks until 1 year after the pandemic. So from honestly, from what we see from medical representatives, is that the earliest the pandemic could likely be declared over, officially declared by the government, would be the end of this year. So think December 31st at the earliest would be my thought. So this would go until December 31st of next year because this particular plan is for $1,000 monthly recurring payments for 1 year after the pandemic is declared over. And that is to get everybody caught up on their bills, caught up on their debt that this once in a 100-year pandemic has caused for millions of people. It's more than just the pandemic, it's also the economic pandemic, the economic recession or depression that has come with this. Remember, most depressions and recessions in the United States have been, say, we go back to the 2008, 2009 one, or all the way back to the Great Depression, or any of the ones in between. Most of them are just an economic depression. Okay, they're a housing crisis or a Wall Street crisis back in 2000 or 1929, I should say. And we've now created all these additional government programs such as Social Security and unemployment, and now the stimulus programs to help prevent our economy from crashing. Well, not only are we dealing with that and we're dealing with the economic crisis, but this time around, we're dealing with a once in a 100-year pandemic alone. So a lot of people forget they think that when we get vaccines and when we get to herd immunity, if we ever get there, Dr. Fauci is now saying that he's not even sure if we can get to herd immunity because he's not sure if enough people will get the vaccine. So the question is that will we ever even get there? Will the pandemic even go away? Or will it be this lingering thing that goes on for years? So we have the pandemic, but we also have the economic portion of the depression and the recession. Remember, a brand new report from February shows that 22% of small businesses went out of business in February alone. So again, it's not just a lot of people get this confused saying, "Oh, we're on our way out. The vaccines and the cases are down, which cases are actually coming back up." But it's a lot more than just the medical portion of the pandemic. Nancy Pelosi says to her fellow Democrat squad members, quote, "You're not a one-person show. This is the Congress of the United States," Nancy Pelosi says of the advice she would offer her lawmakers, her fellow lawmakers. Pelosi and the squad have exchanged numerous barbs since the group was elected in the 2018 blue wave. At one point in July of 2019, the feud between Pelosi and the group had become so ubiquitous that Pelosi told reporters during a press briefing that she would no longer be discussing it any further. And that the speaker's, quote, anger at the four new progressive congresswomen was palpable. Seems that Nancy Pelosi wants to rein in her fellow Democrats in the House, as we've seen this both in the House and the Senate. The Senate struggles with their Democratic Party also, namely Senator Joe Manchin has been way out there when it comes to the Democratic Party coming together. He did end up finally coming together for the third stimulus check package at the end, and I expect that that is what will happen with the fourth round of stimulus and the infrastructure package. Although they'll probably have to do multiple negotiations of appeasing him. He's kind of the showboat of the group, where he says, "Oh no, I got to have it my way, or else you got to change this detail and this detail." And then, only then, I'll give you your vote, which is what we did see happen in the third stimulus check package. Ultimately, he almost always ends up voting with the Democrats when all is said and done. They just have to go through a process of appeasing him, to put it lightly. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says some really good things about stimulus. He says the economy would have been so much worse without the COVID-19 relief bills, aka the stimulus packages. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says the economy would have been, quote, so much worse if the COVID-19 relief bills were never passed by Congress. He says, I hate to even think it would have been so much worse. He says Congress, in effect, replaced people's incomes, kept them in their homes, kept them solvent, kept their lives together with what they did in the CARES Act. That's just the first stimulus package alone. He says it was heroic. Powell says that the unknowns at the outset of the pandemic were, quote, terrifying, which is why he became a vocal supporter of multi-trillion-dollar stimulus packages. He also took action on his own at the Federal Reserve, invoking the Fed's emergency lending powers. They noted Powell lowered the benchmark interest rates to near zero and purchased trillions of dollars in bonds on the open market so that credit could continue to flow, they reported. And this is a really good indicator for more stimulus on the horizon. And this just shows what I've been talking about is that without the modern day stimulus packages and these other social programs that they've added into the government infrastructure along the way, in 1935, Social Security was added. In 1935, they also added the unemployment benefits and the unemployment whole program. Before that, these didn't even exist. And now we're moving on into the modern day stimulus packages. The 2008 and 2009 recession was really just the start of the modern day stimulus programs. And they passed very minor stimulus compared to this one, a fraction in 2008, 2009. But most economists say that was a huge mistake. But in reality, it's hard to look back and say hindsight is 2020. That was really just the start of the modern day stimulus package. Before then, we really hadn't had stimulus packages like we did now to help with an economic recovery. And it took over 4 years for that economic recession to get employment back to normal from the housing crisis. So it took 4 years, over 4 years, for unemployment to get back to normal. And they weren't even dealing with a medical pandemic. It was just an economic pandemic. So that shows you, and again, most economics say if you go back, if you could, and you spent more stimulus back then, more stimulus packages, more stimulus checks, more unemployment bonuses. In fact, the unemployment bonus money back then underneath President Obama, do you know what it was? $25 a week. Yeah. And it's not that Obama was anti-stimulus or anything. I mean, he was a Democrat. It's just that it was the beginning of stimulus. They were kind of like figuring it out. It was a new precedent. It was kind of like a brand new thing. It was like just introducing Social Security, the entire program in 1935, and just introducing the unemployment program in 1935. 2008 and 2009 was the 1935 for the stimulus programs. And now the government has learned, as we've passed 5 packages underneath Trump and 1 underneath Biden, with more to come, as that honestly paying your way out of the recession and the depression and having less people die, less people out on the streets, less people jobless. And if they are jobless, the government supports them so that they don't starve to death. Is a much more humane and better way for the economy. Is basically, hey, let's spend our way out of the recession or the depression, because if we don't, it'll last years and years longer. And as we've discussed on this show, if you just come out of a recession or depression even 6 months earlier by doing stimulus packages, that could mean trillions and trillions of dollars extra pumped into the economy because people got their jobs back faster. They got stimulus to put in their money to spend and to keep businesses afloat. It's a trickle up and down effect, because when you add stimulus into the economy it gets like a vitamin B shot in the arm, and it's just instantly better for many months. So without that, you see like a complete crash of the economy and the job market and everything like that. And luckily, we have these social programs now with the modern day stimulus package included, which honestly has worked so well. If you look at economists, that this will kind of become a norm going forward whenever we have a recession or depression. So again, the last one was in 2008. Now we're here in 2020 and 2021. So you say about 13 years there, 11, 12, 13 years, 14, 15 years. So maybe once every 10 to 15 years, they do something like this. But really, a recession or a depression could come around another year or two from now. It could come around 20 years from now. But I think the government has set the precedence now that whether it's a Republican, because again, we started this with Republican Trump and a Republican Senate. So last year we had the Republicans controlled with the president and the Senate, only a Democratic House. Now we have the Democrats controlling everything. And both parties are passing stimulus. Remember, 5 packages were passed underneath Trump and Mitch McConnell, only one underneath Biden. Really, he's just getting started. I think there's several more to come before all is said and done. And really, we don't even know how long this pandemic is going to go for with the medical portion of the pandemic, but also the economic recovery. President Biden is meeting with bipartisan lawmakers today about the infrastructure slash stimulus package, the fourth round of stimulus. They're meeting today to discuss potential details of what will or won't be included in this package when all is said and done. President Biden is still hoping or pushing for Republican support in this package, but I personally don't think they're going to be able to come to an agreement. I think that what Republicans want and what Democrats want in this next package is just too far away. I think if Republicans still controlled the Senate, I think that they would definitely make an agreement, but it would be much closer to what the Republicans' point of view want. And because Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, I think that basically at the end of the day, the Democrats are just going to say, well, based on our views and what we want in this package, and because we control everything, I think at the end of the day, they're just going to end up passing this package through the reconciliation process, and 100% of it will be Democratic things in there. I think that the Joe Manchins of the world, the Democratic senator from West Virginia, who leans somewhat Republican, I think that he will be the negotiator there, maybe for the Republican Party. Is that weird to say? But I think that he'll negotiate a few things before the package is all said and done. But ultimately, I do expect that he will sign on with the Democrats and they will pass this package through the reconciliation process. I don't think that they're going to be able to make a deal between the Republicans and the Democrats this time around. Just like the last time around, the third stimulus check package, they were just way too far off. President Biden and the Democrats wanted 1.9 trillion. That's what they ended up passing. The Republicans, when they realized that the Democrats were going to pass this package with the reconciliation process and do it without them, the Republicans kind of threw up a last-ditch Hail Mary, a counter proposal for the third stimulus check package. It was only $600 billion. That's less than 1/3 of what the Democrats ended up passing, what they wanted from the get-go. What they wanted from the get-go and what they ended up passing was about the same, $1.9 trillion. And the Republicans offered 1/3 of that or less as a counter proposal. And it wasn't even in the same realm for the Democrats to really negotiate with that when they can pass it on their own. If they needed the Republicans to pass it, if they needed the Republican votes, we'd be having a much different story. I think they would have definitely passed the third stimulus check package, but that bill would have probably came a lot more towards the middle, somewhere around $1 trillion, with Democrats wanting 1.9 trillion and Republicans wanted 600 trillion. They would have had to get Mitch McConnell on board, and I think they would have likely ended up doing that, but it might have included smaller stimulus checks and a lot smaller package, probably around half the size of what they did pass. And that's why I don't think the infrastructure slash the next stimulus package, I think it's going to go the same way. I think that Republicans are going to want way, way, way less than Democrats are willing to spend or willing to do. And if they needed to negotiate with them, they would. But it's like saying that do you need to negotiate with your neighbor to buy a new couch in your house? Like their opinion really doesn't matter per se, because you don't really need to negotiate with your neighbor. Like, yeah, it'd be cool if you had your neighbor's support, which is kind of where the Republicans are at this point because they've lost control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And that could change in a year and a half when we go up for re-elections. But for now, Democrats are likely going to pass multiple bills on their own. The Senate parliamentarians said they can pass at least 2 more stimulus packages with the reconciliation process. Then they get more for next fiscal year, which starts in October. And Senator Chuck Schumer says, who's the Senate Majority Leader, that they can go back and amend these reconciliation packages, stimulus packages that have passed through the reconciliation process. And they can go back and amend them, aka include additional things or change it if they want. So really at this point, it kind of looks like the Democrats can pass as many stimulus packages as they want for the time being. They don't even need to get rid of the filibuster to do this because they have so many reconciliation passes or reconciliation cards that they can use this. So they don't need to get rid of the filibuster until they run out of reconciliation passes to use to pass packages. I think that ultimately they'll try to do that before their 2 years is up, before we go into the 2022 elections, which would be next November. So you see we're still a little bit over a year and a half from them. That's when about 1/3 of the Senate goes up for reelection and all of the U.S. House of Representatives. If Republicans take back control of either one of those, it puts a significant change of power in there because the Democrats can no longer just negotiate with themselves. So if Republicans win either one of those, remember the Senate's tied 50-50, and the Republicans only need to win, I think it's like 6 seats in the House. I think the Democrats have a 10-seat lead. But if you lose 5 seats and the Republicans gain 5, then it's a tie. So if the Republicans win even 6 seats out of like 435, which is way less than 1%, if they win the House or the Senate, everything changes. So the Democrats really only have about a year and a half to kind of pass everything they want under their agenda until the Republicans have a good shot of winning either one of them, because it's literally almost an exact tie in both the House and the Senate. And all the Republicans need to do is win one of them, and then everything changes. Then they have to go back to negotiating any stimulus bills or anything like that. Any type of bills at all would need to be negotiated. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on updates on the fourth and upcoming round of stimulus. I will keep you up to date with all the different stimulus programs on the horizon and to be included in this next package. New videos come out every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., 8 p.m., and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss an episode because I talk about different stimulus provisions in different videos. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check program next, or my newest stimulus check video. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. I've had dozens of students that have replaced their 9-to-5 income with the Amazon FBA program, whereas you can sell products on Amazon, and I teach people how to do that. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.